This is Steve Ridgel, and I spent most of yesterday on the campus of Abilene Christian University. Now, I live in Abilene, so that's not all that rare, but I was there for my 50th class reunion. I was part of the class of 1973. And so, as everybody does, when you go to your reunions, especially those big ones like that, you think about several things. And so, not in any particular order, here's just some of the things that I reflected on last night after going to my spending most of the day with the classmates from my 50th class reunion at Abilene Christian University. The first one is people change. Now, I'm not just talking about looks. People, it is funny to watch those. Everybody's going around saying, "Who are you?" "Oh, I didn't recognize you." Or occasionally there are people that really hadn't changed. Now, everybody thinks that's maybe the ladies that have. No, there are ladies. My wife, anybody that's ever known her would recognize her immediately because she looks. I know she doesn't look exactly the same, but much like she did. Though she would point out she's 2 years younger than my class. She was 2 years behind us, so of course she would look younger. But even some of the guys, you see them, you know immediately who they are. Now, in my case, most people knew me not because they recognized me, but because as preaching in our fellowship for a long, long time, Churches of Christ, a lot of them have seen me over the years, but my voice apparently has not changed. The people that heard me speak or talk in college hear me and they know immediately my voice. Kind of a creepy, kind of weird, kind of neat thing. But people change in other ways too. One of the things that made me the happiest all day yesterday was talking to people who really didn't quite have it together in college or really struggled or battled some addictions, and to hear them talk about how they've changed their life. That was an exciting thing, to know that God really works and changes lives. And that was exciting. Another thing I realized is for talking to my friends and people from that class, life doesn't turn out like you thought it would. It just doesn't. There were people that ended up divorced. There were people that didn't get married. There were people that changed jobs multiple times. There were people that spent 5 years in college training for and then are doing something different. Things change. It just happens that way. Life doesn't always turn out like you plan. Some of those people, I remember conversations in college, but a lot of them, I think if we've been able to write down their plan for 50 years, boy, where they are now would not be anything like that. Life changes. I was also struck by the fact that, people die. Now, most of my class were in our early 70s, and I was amazed how many people in our class have passed. Now, some of them were accidents and tragedies, but a lot of them were sickness, and I've got friends that aren't with us any longer, and that's always a little sobering kind of thing. But it also struck me that, boy, we're wearing out, because I looked around and there were people on canes and people, not a lot of walkers, but there were some people limping, and you can tell they have to sit down a lot more. And man, we're getting old, and sometimes you die. But I also was struck by how much good has been done by my class for the kingdom. Lots of preachers, lots of elders and elders' wives, lots of missionaries, lots of people who just invested in people and invested in the kingdom. There are going to be a lot of people in heaven because the class of 1973 from Abilene Christian University. And that's neat. And finally, I was struck by this. God's really good. I was amazed how many people testified to how good God's been in their life, how he's changed so many things for them, seen them through so much, helped them through so many hard times. And as always, I was struck by how much people need Jesus, because I don't know how you face death and change and hardships and all that kind of stuff without Jesus. And last thought, most of my classes retired. I was amazed how many of them have hung it up. People would say, "So what are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I have 2 part-time jobs." "So basically you're working 2 full-time jobs." Yes. I was staggered how many of my friends have retired and how many of them didn't know what they were going to do. Good for them if they could do that. I just kind of charged through life, but that was interesting. So a few thoughts on my 50th class reunion that I spent yesterday doing.